Guess who's back? I'm really sorry for the long delay, but I have a very good reason for that. Just as the mutants in this movie have their own special abilities, I too have discovered abilities of my own. The power of upgrading.
Everything they built will fall, and from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the new and majorly improved and Enjoy the Show. I am your host, Tyler Gobnuke Wells, the Indie Hat Media Shark. I said I had the power of upgrading, but sadly, I did not acquire my new powers from my own DNA. I was inspired to stop living on pause and to press play on life, as this channel is now brought to you by the PressPlay Realty Network. When you use any of the realty groups under the PressPlay Network, you aren't just hiring a realtor, you have an entire team of realtors, marketers, etc., that is dedicated to educate, empower, and entertain their clients to make the home buying process as simple as pressing play. But enough about that. Let's get to the real question. Was X-Men Apocalypse any good? Sort of. X-Men Apocalypse is the third film to feature the X-Men First Class cast, which features James McAvoy as Professor X, the incredible Michael Fassbender as Magneto, Jennifer Lawrence as Raven/Mystique, and Nicholas Hoult as Hank/McCoy. I wonder if Hoult has a lovely day in all that makeup. The film is directed by Bryan Singer, who also did the first X-Men, X2, Days of Future Past, and now X-Men Apocalypse. So what is it about? X-Men Apocalypse is the story of the very first all-powerful mutant known to us as Apocalypse, played by the awesome Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaacs. After an incident in ancient Egypt, Apocalypse has basically been in hibernation until he is awoken in the 80s and begins recruiting the strongest of mutants to become his four horsemen to help, aka serve, him ridding the world of us weak humans' rule of the world and restoring order where he is basically God on Earth. So as you can guess, the X-Men must come together to fight and defeat Apocalypse before he can carry out his world-ending plan. So out the gate, I'm going to be upfront that when it comes to my knowledge of Apocalypse from the cartoons or even the comics, I never really paid much attention to his whole storyline. So it didn't really matter to me that he sounded different than the cartoon or that he was smaller than expected. I actually loved the fact he wasn't huge the whole time. It actually made him more imposing to me because I know what he is capable of. Size doesn't matter. It's like Professor X. When he is in his wheelchair, or even when he's standing for that matter, Professor X looks smaller than everyone else. Yet, do we view him as inferior, or does he have a presence about him? It's kind of the same sense here with Apocalypse, at least it was for me. I also felt Apocalypse was one of the stronger, more intimidating villains in the film franchise. I loved how he was calm and slow-moving, completely knowing he outmatches everybody. I mean, come on, the Cerebro scene between Apocalypse and Xavier was so intense and truly showed we are super screwed. Great stuff. Moving on, have I mentioned that I love the First Class cast? I mean, James McAvoy is brilliant as Xavier. Who knew that he could step into Patrick Stewart's shoes? Especially each time when he confronts Apocalypse was just, in my opinion, awesome. I'll get this out of the way, because everyone's talking about it, and they should. Evan Peters as Quicksilver, cinema gold. They managed to top the amazing speedster scene in Days of Future Past. But unlike that film, we get more screen time with him. And it's still not enough. By the way, mind's still blown over this meme. Let that sink in. The actors playing the young Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops were great. And if they make more movies, I wouldn't mind seeing more of them. Now, a lot of people have been griping about Jennifer Lawrence's role in these movies, that because she's this bigger star, that they made her role bigger than it needed to be. And while I was initially on board with them, as her Mystique does not line up personality and attitude-wise with the one from the original trilogy, But as I was watching Days of Future Past recently, that movie not only basically erases X3, but it does in many ways erase X1 and X2 as well. The timeline is not perfectly synced up, and now we have a Mystique that's her own entity. We must also remember that she played Mystique in X-Men First Class before Katniss, and across all 3 films her arc evolves in line with how her character is presented in First Class. The mutant and proud declaration is sensibly and wisely addressed in both Days of Future Past and in Apocalypse, so that is not a loophole as many claim. So I do feel Mystique's story would have been similar regardless of who played her. That being said, Jennifer Lawrence is a great actress, but I do feel the script didn't give her a whole lot to do besides walking monologues with some action thrown in there. So she does the best she can, but it's not the best we've seen of this Mystique. That leaves the one and only Michael Fassbender. Can this guy act or what? Not that Magneto needed any more tragedy and despair of epic proportions in his life than he already does across all 3 films. Fassbender sells Magneto so perfectly that he makes him feel real, and you can connect with how he feels even though he's pretty much a complete psychopath. This film technically breaks one of my rules where usually I will personally, not critically, write off a film regardless of how good it is for showing a certain event on camera, especially if it's just for shock value. I can't say what it is as it's kind of a spoiler, but let's just say it involves children. There are very few films where I will let it slide, and the way Fassbender reacts to that event is so powerful that, to me, instead of the anger I'd normally feel when I see a scene like that, I was filled with empathy, and I literally teared up. Darn you, Fassbender, making me feel emotions. What's wrong with you? All the good aside, this film has a couple of issues. I already mentioning that Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique is kind of underused. This is a very slow film. It takes its time. And while I appreciate that, this film's also 2.5 hours. That's not good. There's a lot of repeating monologues, a lot of scenes where you're kind of wondering like, hey, let's get going. I mean, you know, I like that Apocalypse takes his time, but in some ways he takes too much time getting things going. And there are a lot of unnecessary tangents, such as there is a sweet cameo a third of the way into the film. But when you really think about it, this whole shift in location and this whole scene was devised more for fan service than actual pushing the plot along. It's really more of a tangent just so we could have this cool cameo, which is a cool cameo. Not hating on the cameo, but when you think about it, the film kind of halts in some ways. They do a little bit of work to try to keep it going, but it's really not enough. The fighting is excellent, but be warned, this is definitely more graphic than the previous X-Men films. There's even a part that reminds me of the heads melting in Raiders, but take that, mix it with modern CGI, and you pretty much have that one shot in this film, so it might not be suitable for children. That being said, when the X-Men finally fight Apocalypse, I was impressed with how they depicted Apocalypse's power, as he is more powerful than them, and they build it up beautifully that whenever our heroes do get a hit in, it's awesome. So, to summarize, the acting was fantastic, I love how they depicted Apocalypse, and we need more Quicksilver. But the pacing is too sluggish for the runtime, and there is a lot of unnecessary subplots to give us small, cool, but ultimately useless scenes. But I can't deny that when the film brings the awesome, they don't disappoint, and what's better is there are plenty of those moments. I would have to rate X-Men Apocalypse a 3.5 rows of teeth out of 5. I know I'm probably in the minority on this, but I did enjoy X-Men Apocalypse, even with its faults, and I will most likely buy it on Blu-ray. But enough of what I thought. What did you think about the movie? What did you think about the new look? And any suggestions you may have for me to make it even better? I want to know, so comment below. Give a like and a subscribe as I'm back and there are more videos on the way. I have been your host, Tyler Gobnuke Wells, the Indie Hat Media Shark. And remember, whether you're playing a video game or watching a movie, just remember to enjoy the show, and I'll see you next time.